I imagine a few of you here have seen this film, right? How many have? Have you seen it? Yeah, so maybe a little less than half. That's good.
By the way, it's available Pleasant Street Video. It's on VHS, only signed by Thurston, comparing it to The Incredible Mr. Limpet. Unfavorably.
Well, The Incredible Mr. Limpet, if anybody, do you know that film?
Oh, yeah.
That was my 1991, actually. The way this film sort of started was, we had asked David Markey, who was a friend of ours from Los Angeles, who was really into making movies. He had made some sort of underground movies in LA called Desperate Teenage Love Dolls Superstar, and a few other ones. And he always used members of the LA kind of punk rock underground, members of Black Flag and Red Cross, Minutemen, and such were the actors and actresses in these films. And we sort of fell in with those people, eventually sort of tying in with the Vanguard label of LA at the time called SST. And so we became kind of fast friends with David Markey and his crew in LA. And by the time 1991 rolled around, you know, a lot had sort of happened in our world. And we had already been together for like 10 years, and I think we felt kind of set in our ways as far as what we were doing. We certainly didn't have any sort of ambitions beyond what we were doing, or what we had just done the year before, which was actually touring across America, opening for Neil Young to a very sort of unpleasant kind of audience. And, so that was kind of a pinnacle for us. And I do remember when we were doing that Neil Young tour, his management had asked us if there was a band that we knew that could replace Social Distortion, who were third on the bill at the time. And I had a cassette of Bleach by Nirvana, and I gave it to them. And I said, I think this band would be really good. And they came back and said, yeah, it sounds pretty good, but I think we're going to go with this band called Drving N Crying. They were kind of hot in the college radio scene, I think. So I just like, I just sort of shrugged. It was kind of a no sale. And you know, I mean, of course, eventually, you know, Neil Young would sort of do a record in memoriam to Kurt called Sleeps with Angels. But, so, I mean, after the whole touring with Neil Young experience, we kind of figured that we sort of had kind of investigated and experienced a certain crest in a way. And in '91, when we were sort of setting up this festival tour across Europe, which we had done to some extent through the years, where we would go over and you'd play these festivals, and it was a kind of a good way to sort of get out there and play, and also sort of make, you know, sort of consistent coin while you were doing it. But it was also kind of a bit of a bummer, because you weren't playing sort of intimate gigs, and the audiences weren't really coming to see you. They were coming to see mostly the bands that were at the top of the bill. And so we were usually sort of kind of in the middle. And so we got booked to play all these festivals across Europe and in England. And we had just done a West Coast jaunt with Nirvana, who just had Bleach out, and they were great. And we just thought they were fantastic. And their drummer at the time was Dale Crover from the Melvins, who, when he used to play in his bikini briefs, and he was fantastic. And we asked those guys if they wanted to come with us, and they did, but a little begrudgingly, because Kill Rock Stars was doing a International Pop Fest, the first one they were doing, the Kill Rock Stars Festival in Olympia that summer. And they had to bail on it to tour with us. And so I could tell they were a little sort of like, you know, this decision was not really, they weren't that keen on it. But at the same time, they didn't, you know, they didn't really care. They were just going for it. And they showed up. I remember them showing up at the airport in London, and Dale wasn't with them. And I was kind of upset that Dale wasn't with them. They had this new guy, Dave Grohl, who I didn't really know too much about, except for he was in a DC band called Scream. And didn't know what to think. But he, the first show we did in Cork, Ireland. I remember just it just kind of blowing my mind because they just came out and they were just like, they had just upped the ante of what they were all about immediately, especially with Dave. And I had asked David Markey to come along because I thought it would be kind of fun for him just to document like going across Europe and see what that was like with us and Nirvana. And I also kind of asked the rest of the band, asked the rest of Sonic Youth if he thinks this is a good idea. I mean, should we fly him over? I mean, because it costs a lot of money to do that. And I felt like I sort of had to talk everybody into it. But everybody kind of liked Dave, but there was a little bit of like, well, maybe it's not a good idea to like buy a ticket for this guy. It's sort of an expenditure that maybe we shouldn't be sort of spending. But we did, and he came over and he just sort of went somewhere into London and just bought suitcases full of film. And he missed I think he missed the first few days or something or other, but he just started shooting. And we didn't have any ambitions towards any theatrical release, or this was going to be something that was going to like introduce us to some other audience or whatever. It was just for our own edification. And what was surprising about this tour was that there were so many people started showing up at these festivals for bands of our ilk that we had never sort of experienced before. It seemed like it was like maybe tenfold the audience that we had ever had before in Europe. And nobody knew who Nirvana was over there. Like, nobody knew who they were, unless you were very kind of hip and you had that Bleach record on import. You just did not know. And Nirvana didn't care. They were just coming out and they were just destroying every night. In a way, I think one of the best things about this film is that it captures that band, I think, at their pinnacle, before they had any sort of public perception of profile placed upon them at all. And it's really pure and it's really raw. I'm not very happy with the way our band is